Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this image. Now this image is a composite of several different image elements. The smoke is captured separately from the bellows. This gives lots of control in post-production. So let me take you through what I've got set up so far. Now there are two main elements to the way that this image is constructed. One is some smoke, which will be coming from this smoke machine, which I've set up on a stand here for convenience. And the other element will be a pair of old bellows, which I found at the back of a shed. Now these two elements are actually lit completely separately. So to start with, I'll be concentrating just on the bellows. Okay, so to move forwards a bit, we have the camera. I have a 70 to 24mm zoom lens on the camera. I've got a flash trigger on the top, and as usual, it's tethered into Capture One software. Okay, so as I mentioned previously, there are two elements to this image. Now the first element being these bellows. So that is what we're concentrating on to start with. So I've previously composed the shot and I've set the lens on 70mm, which gives quite a tight view of the bellows. So the next thing to do would be to just set up a light. So to start with, I'm just going to point this B1X, Profoto B1X 500 joule studio flash more or less directly at the subject. We'll just check that's lined up. It looks about right. Now I can control that from the trigger on the top of the camera here. So I can just select that and turn it on from here. And we'll just capture a test image. Okay, so that test image was captured just with the default settings. So I have a shutter speed, which is the flash sync speed for that camera, 1/250th of a second, 100 ISO, and I'm using a nominal f8 just to give me a reasonable depth of field. Color temperature is set to 5600 Kelvin. Okay. Now I can see from this image that it looks a little dark to me, so I'm just going to add possibly a stop or two stops to that flash, and we'll take another image. Okay, so that has now come up quite nicely. Now you should also be able to see in this image that the lighting is a little harsh. The shadows are very well defined and very deep. And I think for a subject such as this, it would be better if it was a little softer. So to make the image a little softer, what I'm going to do is add a softbox to the front of this flash. And there we go. We've added this 4-foot octabox to the front of the flash. That's going to make the light considerably softer. So let's just capture an image like that. There we are. We can immediately see the differences between this image, which was taken with the softbox, and this one, which was just taken with the bare flash head. You can see how dark the shadows are on this one, whereas this one is a lot more friendly. But the back here is still a little dark. So what I think would be a good idea to just fill in the shadows on the back here would be just to place a flag about here somewhere, just to reflect some of the light from this softbox back onto the subject again. So here I have a simple flag or reflector. It's just a piece of card, and I've just clamped it to the top of this stand. So if I just place it in here somewhere, possibly somewhere like that, that should recycle some of the light back onto the subject again. There we are. You can see specifically in this area that has actually brought that detail back again in the edge of the bellows here. I go to the previous image, all this is in heavy shadow, whereas now it's actually starting to come to life a little. Now we can actually control the amount of light which is going to go back onto the subject again from the distance this is away from the subject. So for instance, if I put this in very close, like here somewhere, and we take another image. Now in this image you should be able to see that all this is extremely filled in from the reflector which we just moved. If I go to the previous one, that's where we had it further away, and that's where we've got it close in. Now I think for the image that I'm trying to create, I want it somewhere in between. So I'm just going to move that back a bit, just to about here somewhere, and we'll see what that's like. Yes, I think that's a reasonable compromise. You've got detail in the back here, but it's not too overblown. If we go back to the original, this is what we had to start with, and this is what we have now. So I think for the capture of this element of our image, that's pretty good. So I'll just put a mark on that one, and we'll come back to that later. Okay, so with that element captured, I can remove all this and we can concentrate on the smoke. So the second element of the image is the smoke. So I've got the smoke machine set up here at the back, and I've recomposed the image by moving the lens from 70mm to 35. That will give us a wider shot. Now the best way to make the smoke visible is to light it from behind. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another studio flash just in here somewhere at the back. Here we go. So I'll just pop this down here. This is another Profoto B1X, and I've just put a reflector on that just to concentrate the light a little. And we'll just test the exposure. Okay, so this is the sort of thing that I was expecting. You can see the light in the top there. I just want to check the focus, which will be just at the front here. So I've just zoomed in. We're just having a bit of a look round. I think that's fine for the time being. So with all that in place, it's probably time to do a test just with some smoke. So what I'm going to do is just trigger the smoke machine and then take a series of images, and we'll see what they look like. There we go. These are the images that we've just captured. So the smoke needs a little bit of time just to get going. And you can see you get a different level of detail in each of the captures. So what I think we'll do is we'll just wait for that bit of smoke to dissipate, and then we'll give it another go. I might increase the energy of the lighting by 1 stop, just to see if that makes a difference. So off we go. There, I think we've captured quite a few images there. Oh yes, some of these are looking very good. Okay, so with all those images now captured, it just remains to pick the best of the bunch and go into Photoshop and do the post-production. So here we are in Photoshop, and these are the 2 images that I've decided to go forwards with. So this is the bellows, and this is the smoke. Now in order to make a composite of these 2, what I'm going to do is first of all clean up each image. So I'll remove all the various bits that we don't need, like the stand, the smoke machine, the light at the top here, etc. And the way that I'm going to do that is just to literally paint onto this image in black. So I'm just going to use black as the foreground colour. To go for a paintbrush, make it a bit smaller than that. There we go. And we'll just paint directly onto the image. So I'm doing this relatively quickly. You could take some more time and a bit more care, but you get the idea. I'm just going to go around the end here just to finish off the smoke quite nicely at the end. So with that done, I can now move on to the bellows, and we can clean that one up too. So just make the paintbrush here a bit smaller and a little harder, and we'll just take out all the clamps and various bits and pieces we don't need. So with those two bits done, what I'm going to do is just save those with a different file name, so I'll save them as a copy. And do exactly the same with the smoke. And now I'll load those two new files into a stack. There we are. So they're both loaded in. Now I'm just going to roughly scale them to get them into approximately the right sort of size. So I'll just go to Edit, Transform, Scale. Now making sure the horizontal and vertical is locked to maintain the aspect ratio. I'll just scale that. Move it to about here somewhere. Scale out a bit more. I'll just change the blend mode to screen just to make it a little easier to see where everything's going to go. So that's the approximate place for that, I think. Possibly a little smaller. Something like that. And now I'll just select the smoke, and we'll do a similar job with that. There we are. Something like that. Okay, now I'll just add another layer. I'll pop that at the bottom, and I'll just fill that layer with black just to complete that part of the image. There we go. So the next stage would be just to change the blend mode back to normal again, like so. And this time what I might do is just put the bellows underneath the smoke, like that. And we'll just add a layer mask to the smoke. And I will then just get rid of this part of the image by painting that out on the mask. Here we are. So as I paint that out, it just brings the bellows back in again. Like so. There, very good. Right, so with those bits done, what I would like to do now is just make some multiple copies of these. So I just need to make another 2. So I'll just hold down the Control key and click on the other layer. I can then just right-click and duplicate the layers, and it will duplicate both of them at the same time. So I'll just do that again. There we are. So now we have 3 copies of virtually the same thing. So what I want to do in order to make up the final image is move the top one and the bottom one relative to the center one. So I'll click on both of those and I'll just link those together, and I'll click on both of those. And just link those together, which will then mean they'll move as one. So if I go back up to the top ones, go to Edit, Transform, Rotate. Now I want it to rotate from around about the center of the smoke. It doesn't have to be very accurate, but I'll just move the center mark, which will mark the point at which it will rotate. And then just pick the top up and turn it round to about there somewhere. So with that bit completed, I'll just do the same on the bottom one. Edit, Transform, Rotate. And I'll put that approximately in the same place. I don't want it exactly in the same place, because this will just cause a little more confusion to the smoke. So we'll just move that to about there somewhere. Like that. Okay. So far so good. So if I just now take all the others out, apart from the 2 at the top here. Now if I just go onto the layer with the smoke, like this, and add an adjustment to that, of hue and saturation, just click on the colorize, and I only want it to affect that particular layer, so I'm just going to click on that, which will then mean that it's only affecting the smoke. It's only affecting the one which is directly underneath it. So I'll move the saturation up to full. And yeah, that's in red. That's okay for me. I think I'm quite happy for that to stay in red. Okay, so with those bits done, I can move on to the middle ones. So I want to make those active now. Turn off those. And again, just go to Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. Only want to affect that layer. Go on to Colorize, and this time I'll pick, I'll put the saturation up to full, and this time I'll just pick a green, somewhere around there. And then finally do the ones at the bottom. Turn that off, and that, and that, and turn that on, and that on. Select the smoke, adjustment, hue and saturation, just want that layer, colorize, and this time I'll pick a nice blue. Like that. So far so good. So now what I'm going to do is turn on all the layers. So then I'm just going to go through and change the blend mode on each of our layers here. So I'm just holding down the Control key while I'm selecting them. And I'm just going to change that from normal to screen. There we go. Now this is why I didn't want to turn them round in exactly the same place, because I've ended up with all these nice colours being created, by the 3 layers mixing in slightly different places. Okay, so with that done, the only remains to pick a reasonable crop. So I'll just go for my usual 16:9 and click on OK. And there we have my completed image. Now, I think that's worked reasonably well. There's an awful lot of colour in there, which has all been created from one smoke trail. So there you go. I hope you like seeing these sort of things. And if you do, just click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.